Have you ever built something with your own hands, poured your heart into it, only to see it destroyed overnight? Imagine waking up one morning and finding your hard work gone, not because of an accident, not because of nature, but because of the very people who were supposed to protect your neighborhood. That's exactly what happened to me when my Homeowners Association decided to tear down my wooden fence, without warning. What followed was a battle that no homeowner ever expects to face. I still remember the day I decided to build that fence. It wasn't just about marking property lines or keeping my yard private. That fence was a symbol of my home, my safety, and my family's peace of mind. I chose the best wood, the strongest nails, and even hired a craftsman to help me design it so it looked elegant and sturdy. It was not just any fence. It was an investment. It gave me pride whenever I looked at it. Neighbors complimented it. Friends admired it. And I felt a sense of accomplishment every time I pulled into my driveway. But one morning, everything changed. I heard loud noises outside, with cracking, heavy machinery moving, voices shouting commands. At first, I thought maybe a tree had fallen, or maybe workers were fixing something on the street. But when I stepped out of my door, my heart nearly stopped. My fence, the very fence I had spent months planning, thousands of dollars building, was being torn apart piece by piece. And the ones doing it were not strangers, not vandals, but my own HOA. Shock and conflict building. I rushed out, yelling for them to stop. My voice cracked with anger and confusion. What are you doing? That's my property. But the workers looked at me coldly, saying they had orders from the HOA board. Orders? Orders to destroy my fence? I couldn't believe it. Nobody had told me. Nobody had warned me. Nobody had even asked me. They acted like my property didn't matter, like my voice didn't matter. And in that moment, I realized just how powerless homeowners can feel when facing an HOA that thinks it has unlimited control. I called the HOA president immediately. My hands shook as I dialed, my heart racing. When he finally answered, his tone was casual, almost careless. He said, the fence was not in compliance with community rules. We had the right to remove it, right? How could they possibly have the right to destroy what I own without giving me notice, without sending me a letter, without even a warning? I had lived in this community for years. I paid my dues. I followed the rules. Yet here I was, watching strangers smash down my investment into broken planks, like it was nothing. The emotional storm. That night, I couldn't sleep. My backyard looked empty, ruined, and exposed. I felt violated, robbed of not only my fence, but my dignity as a homeowner. I had trusted the HOA to manage the community, not to bulldoze through my rights. My family felt unsafe. Neighbors whispered about what happened. And some even wondered if they might be next. I kept replaying it in my head. What did I do wrong? Why me? Why didn't they talk to me first? And then another thought hit me like a hammer. If they could do this to me, they could do it to anyone. But I wasn't ready to just give up. Rising tension, the fight begins. The next day, I marched into the HOA office, demanding answers. I slammed pictures of my fence on the table, the before and after. You destroyed my property, I said firmly, and you owe me for it. The board members shifted uncomfortably in their chairs. Some avoided eye contact. Others tried to speak in legal terms, hiding behind policies and fine print. But I wasn't falling for it. Your fence was 6 inches too high, one of them finally admitted. 6 inches? Was that the reason for destroying something worth tens of thousands of dollars? Was that really worth turning a homeowner's life upside down? I felt my anger rise, but I stayed calm. I knew losing my temper would only make them stronger. Instead, I made one thing clear. You either pay for the damages or I take this to court. The HOA's arrogance. Instead of apologizing, the HOA doubled down. They claimed I should have known the rules, that I had ignored notices they supposedly mailed. But I checked my mailbox every day. I never received a single letter. It was their word against mine. And that's when I realized this wasn't just about a fence. This was about power. The HOA wanted to prove that they could do whatever they wanted, and they didn't care about the financial or emotional damage they left behind. But I wasn't just going to roll over, turning pain into power. I started documenting everything. Pictures, receipts, witness statement from neighbors who saw the demolition. I spoke with lawyers. I read through every line of the HOA's bylaws. And the deeper I dug, the more I found holes in their story. They had skipped proper notice. They had acted without a legal order. They had caused intentional damage. And suddenly, the case wasn't just about offense anymore. It was about $250,000 in damages. That's how much their reckless action cost me when you added up the property value lost, the cost of rebuilding, the emotional distress, and the violation of my rights. A warning for everyone listening. If you think this could never happen to you, think again. HOAs across the country have been known to fine people for the smallest things. Flowers in the wrong color, trash cans left out too long, or paint shades that don't match their standards. But destroying private property? That was a new level of arrogance. And that's why I knew I couldn't let it slide. This wasn't just about me. It was about every homeowner who's ever felt bullied, silenced, or robbed by people in power. Cliffhanger ending for Section 1. So there I was, standing against an entire HOA board, armed with nothing but evidence, determination, and the truth. I had a choice: back down and swallow the loss, or fight for justice no matter the cost. And trust me, I chose to fight. But little did I know, the battle that lay ahead would be bigger, messier, and more life-changing than anything I had ever faced before. Have you ever felt powerless against authority? Stick with me, because in the next part, I'll show you exactly how I turned this nightmare into a $250,000 victory, and how you can protect yourself from being a victim of HOA abuse. Don't miss it. When I told the HOA I was ready to take them to court, they laughed. They thought I was bluffing. They thought I'd get scared, back down, and quietly rebuild my fence on my own dime. But they had no idea who they were dealing with. They had no idea how far I was willing to go to protect my home, my family, and my rights. Because this wasn't just about a wooden fence anymore. This was about justice. And I wasn't going to let them walk all over me. The first step, getting a lawyer. I walked into a lawyer's office with a box full of evidence. Photos, bills, videos, HOA letters, or rather, the lack of them. My lawyer, a sharp man with years of property law experience, listened carefully as I explained everything. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and said, "You have a strong case." They overstepped their authority. Not only did they destroy your property without due process, but they also violated their own bylaws. This could cost them big. Finally, I felt like someone was on my side. For weeks, I had felt powerless. But now I had a weapon, the law. The battle begins. We sent the HOA an official demand letter. In it, we outlined the damages, $250,000 worth. This included the cost of rebuilding the fence, the drop in my property value, and emotional distress. The HOA board responded with arrogance, saying the claim was ridiculous and unrealistic. They even tried to twist the story, accusing me of being a difficult homeowner who ignored their rules. But the problem was, they couldn't prove it. They had no signed notices, no records of warnings, no photos showing a violation. They had nothing. Courtroom tension. The day of the hearing, I walked into the courtroom with my lawyer by my side. The HOA showed up with their own attorney, looking confident, almost smug. They thought their titles and their power would intimidate me. But I wasn't intimidated anymore. The judge asked both sides to present their arguments. The HOA lawyer went first, painting me as someone who ignored the rules and acted against community standards. He spoke with fancy words, but at the end of the day, he had no hard evidence. Then it was my turn. My lawyer stood up calm and steady and laid out everything. The fence had been built within property lines. No written warning had ever been sent to me. The HOA had no legal authority to demolish private property without a court order. The destruction caused massive financial and emotional harm. And then we showed the photos, before and after. The judge leaned forward, frowning as he saw the difference. My sturdy, beautiful wooden fence turned into splinters and rubble. The HOA crumbles. When the HOA president was called to testify, things went downhill for them fast. Under oath, he admitted they didn't have proof of notice. He admitted no certified letters had been sent. He admitted they never gave me a chance to fix the supposed issue. The courtroom went silent. That was the moment I knew the truth was finally winning. The verdict. Weeks later, the decision came in. The judge ruled in my favor. The HOA had acted illegally and recklessly. They were ordered to pay me damages, not just for cost of offense, but for the full $250,000. When I read the judgment, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. After months of stress, anger, and sleepless nights, justice had been served. The HOA that once thought they had unlimited power had been forced to pay the price. Lessons learned. This battle taught me more than I ever wanted to know about HOAs and homeowners' rights. And if you're listening to my story, here's what I want you to take away. Know your rights. HOAs often act like they're above the law, but they're not. You still own your property, and they can't destroy it without due process. Keep records of everything. Every letter, every notice, every email. If you don't, they'll try to twist the truth. Don't be afraid to fight back. HOAs rely on fear and silence. The moment you stand up, they lose their grip. Get legal help early. Don't wait until it's too late. A good lawyer can turn your case around. From pain to power. Looking back, I still feel the sting of watching my fence torn down. But now, that memory fuels me. It reminds me that no matter how powerful an organization seems, no one is above the law. And honestly, that $250,000 wasn't just about money. It was about principle. It was about showing every HOA in America that homeowners are not powerless. Stronger than before. Today, I've rebuilt my fence. It stands taller, stronger, and better than before. But this time, every piece of wood, every nail, every plank reminded me of one thing. I fought back and I won. The HOA tried to break me, but instead, they built me into someone stronger, wiser, and braver. Closing hook in CTA. If you're listening to this and you've ever felt trapped by unfair rules, bullied by people in power, or silenced when you had every right to speak, remember my story. You are not powerless. You can fight back. You can win. Don't let anyone demolish your voice, your home, or your rights. Stand up. Speak out. And if you believe this message needs to be heard, share this story. Because no homeowner should ever go through what I went through.